Lawrence Knight was an unexceptional man living an unremarkable life as a traveling Bible salesman. The irony of his chosen profession was not lost on him. He held no particular religious convictions himself, but found he had a knack for instilling the fear of God in the unsuspecting folks who opened their doors to his well-rehearsed pitch about a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. His route took him through the parched and desolate towns that dotted the American Southwest. Rhubarb, Texas was a speck on the map, a loose collection of ramshackle trailer homes strewn haphazardly across the browning landscape, population 70 on a good day. As he pulled his tired Mercedes into the gravel drive of a particularly dilapidated double-wide, Lawrence felt a twinge of unease that he couldn't quite place. Brushing it aside, he grabbed his sample Bible and approached the door. He had hardly finished his opening salvo when he felt the now-familiar brush of a cat weaving between his legs. Glancing down, he locked eyes with a scrawny black feline, one emerald orb shining back at him balefully. The other eye socket was an empty, gaping void. Lawrence's mind flashed to Winky, the surly one-eyed cat his mother had taken in when he was a child. Even after all these years, the nightmares still came vivid, disturbing visions of the cat's many brushes with death, only to resurrect time and again. Lawrence had never been able to shake the uncanny feeling that the feline was more than it seemed. The old woman who answered the door eyed him warily. "Blinkers seems to like you well enough. I suppose that's one thing in your favor," she muttered almost to herself. "Well, come on in then. When the Lord sends you a sign, you best pay attention." Lawrence couldn't hide his shock when she proceeded to purchase not one but two of his overpriced Bibles. As he made his way to the next town, a soft meow emanated from the back seat, almost causing Lawrence to swerve off the road. He whipped his head around, scanning the stacks of Bibles, but there was no cat to be seen. That night, as he settled into the musty embrace of the El Hermano Motel, the nightmares returned with a vengeance. The gaunt specter of Winky weighed heavily on his chest, skeletal frame belying an impossible heft, lone emerald eye boring into Lawrence's very soul. He woke drenched in sweat, angry red scratches scoring his chest. Desperate for distraction, he flipped on the TV, landing on some late-night psychic prattling on about black cat superstitions. "Pray for the man who sees the same black cat cross his path 10 times, she intoned gravely. "I'd be sleeping with one eye open." The next day was an exercise in futility as Lawrence made his rounds, rebuffed at every turn by the tight-lipped residents of Elmore. Frustration mounting, he turned down the long driveway of Rancho Verde, a ramshackle assemblage of mismatched boards perched precariously amidst a pockmarked landscape. A sharp hiss pierced the air and Lawrence spotted another emaciated black cat crouched menacingly by the steps. He shooed off and tentatively pushed open the ajar front door, calling out a hello that went unanswered. Inside, the place had a distinctly abandoned air, thick with dust and stale memories. Incongruously, the fading light filtering through grimy windows refracted off of something, casting an eerie green glow. Curiosity piqued, Lawrence ventured further into the gloom. A strange assortment of tools littered the kitchen table, rusty picks and spades, and a large metal sieve. As Lawrence lifted it, examining the sand shifting through the mesh, a small green stone tumbled out, skittering musically across the floorboards before coming to rest, glinting temptingly. Lawrence scooped up the tiny emerald, marveling at its flawless clarity. So entranced was he by the gem that he failed to notice the dark silhouette of a cat watching intently from the doorway. Clang! The sieve hitting the floor snapped Lawrence back to the present. Another black cat perched imperiously on the table, inscrutable gaze fixed on him. Startled, Lawrence's grip loosened and the emerald slipped through his fingers, disappearing between the planks. Seized by a sudden, irrational fury, Lawrence grabbed one of the spades, hacking savagely at the rotting wood. The boards came up easily, revealing an astonishing sight, a veritable trove of emeralds glinting in the loamy earth below the house. Lawrence let out an exultant whoop, jumping down into the radiant hoard. Visions of untold wealth and luxury paraded before his eyes as he scooped up handfuls of the precious stones, stuffing them greedily into his pockets, his jacket, anywhere they would fit. So consumed was he by his waking fever dream that the deepening darkness registered only dimly in his awareness. When finally he hoisted himself out of the ersatz mine, laden with his plunder, night had fallen fully. And that's when he saw the eyes, dozens of them, glowing with an ethereal green fire, dancing and swirling hypnotically in the inky blackness all around him. Lawrence chuckled, a manic edge to the sound, as the spectral lights drew ever closer. Then suddenly, the myriad eyes coalesced into one. A single, baleful emerald orb, intimately familiar and terrible in its intensity. Winky, his personal demon, the unkillable feline who had stalked his nightmares since childhood. Lawrence wanted to scream, to run, but he was frozen in place, paralyzed by sheer primal terror. The cat padded closer, skeletal frame somehow more imposing than any jungle cat. When it spoke, the voice was ancient and cold, scraping like a rusty blade on bone. "All your life, you've evaded me," it hissed. "Cheated me. 9 times I've died and 9 times I've returned, with only one purpose, to claim what is mine by right. Your soul." Lawrence gibbered helplessly, emeralds scattering unheeded at his feet. "Please, I don't understand," he managed. The cat let out a rasping chuckle. "You took my lives and I took yours, bound together through the eons in this twisted dance. But no more. Tonight, I take what I am owed." With that, the demon cat lunged, a yowling blur of matted fur and flashing claws. Lawrence threw his arms up in a feeble attempt to shield himself, but it was no use. Agony blossomed white-hot as the creature's needle-like fangs found his throat. Lawrence felt his life's blood gushing out, soaking the thirsty ground along with his ill-gotten emeralds. As his vision dimmed and the world tilted crazily on its axis, he thought he heard the cat whisper, "The 9th life for the 9 lived. Penance paid in full." When the sun rose over Rancho Verde the next morning, no trace remained of Lawrence Knight, erstwhile Bible salesman and wannabe emerald tycoon. Even the gems had vanished, spirited away as if they never were. Only a single cat prowled the abandoned homestead black as midnight, with 2 glowing emerald eyes. Winky had finally achieved the peace of death. But perhaps not for long. After all, a cat has 9 lives.